Okay, let's try this again. So, some people may be aware that this is the second version of this video. I realized after it went public that I forgot to turn on my microphone when I initially recorded this. So, I figured out how to get to the cave scenes in Chapter 4 of When Stars Collide. And since I did not get those scenes on stream, I decided to actually record them off stream and upload them separately. And the initial video, which is currently up right now, has no dialogue from me. It's just dead air. And then going through the scenes. So, I made sure that my microphone is turned on. I'm looking at OBS and the little mute box is unticked. So here we go. Cap. Trying to remember. So basically it's, maybe it's under general. So what happened was, when you're in the cargo bay working with Daz, there's an option that will allow you to talk with one of the potential love interests, and one of them is you're not going to be interrupted. Which will lead you to the Daz scene, but it also gives you an option to lead to the cave scene. So that's what we're going to do here. Wasn't anyone who, as we worked, there's a prick at the back of my skull, a familiar presence approaching the cargo hold from the corridor. Wasn't anyone who would interrupt me and Dad's spell. Just Laren and they wouldn't be coming to find us. They passed by the cargo hold on their way to wherever, and I focused back on the task at hand. Daz was poking into the crate of data prisms. It's a pity everything is invalid. On stream, I ended up picking Noel. That's because I was not looking at the guide. I did not realize that there's now a guide available. Otherwise, I probably would have picked Cav. I suppose, but I mean, they didn't have much motivation to write in other languages, you know. Genuinely thoughtless, to be honest. Those Archaeans always thinking of themselves. Exactly! There was another prickle at the back of my head and I grimaced. I was definitely on edge from finding that box of my belongings, if I was being this receptive to space and time poking at my mind. You okay? So this is the option that will either lead to the Daz scene or lead to the Cav scene. So we're gonna pick this one because, of course, I've decided I want to romance Cav because there's just something intriguing about the fact that Cav is immune to telepathy. So it forces the main character, in this case Lane, to actually use their voice, and they're not able to read Cav the way they can read the others. Because their telepathy also comes with some empathy, but that doesn't work on Cav either. So that's part of the reason for picking Cav. And plus, he's just an interesting character. I think they're about to call you to the bridge. How did you? But you said you're bad at... The cargo intercom beeped twice, and seconds later we heard Frace's voice. Daz, I figured I'd let you know we've settled into orbit and are running scans of the planet now. Was hoping you'd come up and give me a hand. Daz was giving me a quite curious look, but he sighed as resignation washed over his face. Sure, on my way up. I'm bad at it when I do it intentionally, but just about everyone catches flashes of minor events here and there. It's harder to see nothing at all than to see little snippets here and there. Huh, interesting. But as much as I'd love to stay and chat about it, looks like I'm needed elsewhere. I guess it can't be helped that you're a popular individual. Yeah, let's go with that one. Frace could manage the scans on his own. He just likes having company. It's not like Noel and Asher aren't up there already. That does kind of make it seem like you're just popular. Well, that and the fact that Asher isn't terribly helpful when it comes to orbital scans. I can imagine. I think I wrote down my choices. Yeah, here we go. Listen, I don't know if we'll make it back down today. Noel is probably going to need us to be quite thorough since he wants to send teams down. Don't worry about it. I can manage and keep working for a while on my own. Okay, but you should come up to the bridge at some point. It's probably a hell of a view from orbit. It's okay to take a break sometimes, just so you know. Okay, I'll stop by in a while. I'm not going to just work all night, I promise. Okay, good. See you, Elaine. Sorry to vanish on you. No worries, I'll be fine on my own for at least a little while. He gave me a regretful smile and finally left me there to continue alone for a while. I didn't want to say it while he was here, but it might go a little faster without him anyway. He always stopped to ask so many questions and would get distracted by talking. Not that I minded his company, of course, even if it slowed things down. It wasn't like this work was exactly thrilling, and I didn't mind answering him by any means. It did slow us down, though. I checked the nearby data pad and decided it was time to start on the next container. I'd see how much I could get down before I either lost my motivation or someone stopped by to get me. I worked in silence for a little while, just noting down what I recognized, pausing to play with whatever I didn't, and then I noted down those as well, whether I could figure them out or not. There were a few things I remained unsure about. Was that an EM spanner? Was it not? Did I want to push the little purple button and find out? Tough questions, truly. But for the most part, I could work it out on my own without having to risk pushing mysterious buttons, no matter how tempting they sometimes were. Would have been nice if Elion included a manifest if he was going to just dump a load of junk in there with me. Then again, maybe there was one in that box of data prisms, the unlabeled data prisms. That man was just determined to piss me off, wasn't he? I wasn't sure how long I had worked before I caught a glimpse of the figure standing near the door. I just saw the shadow in the corner of my eye and glanced up to find Cav there. He was leaning in the door, arms crossed, and how long he'd been watching me, I didn't know. I lifted an eyebrow, and he did the same in response. Yes? A frown crossed his face as the telepathic signal bounced off, and I once again forgot he couldn't hear me when I did that. I guess he could feel that even if you can't hear it. Huh. Sorry, force of habit. What is? My eyes narrowed. I couldn't tell if he was being obtuse or if he really didn't know. Maybe he didn't feel that, but then why did he frown like that? It's natural to try to speak telepathically, and I keep forgetting you can't hear it. So I find myself saying hello or whatever before I remember. That's all. Ah, so that's what all those passionate looks are every time you glance my way, trying to send me brainwaves that are just bouncing right off? I thought you were just taken in by my good looks. I wouldn't say I'm looking passionately. So you're not taken in by my good looks. Now my feelings are hurt. Sure they are. You don't believe me? Let's just say I have doubts. Are your feelings hurt again? A smirk crossed his features when I finally teased back. That's right, my feelings are very hurt. I think my heart is actually broken, and I'm wondering how you're going to make up for it. According to my notes, this is the one that I picked. Actually, these both give you points with Cav. It's just this gives you more points with Cav, and it's funnier too. I can walk you down to medical. Laird might have a fix for that. Don't think our medicine is quite advanced at healing broken hearts yet. We are mere mortals, after all. In that case, I recommend alcohol. Less effective, but more traditional, I think. He chuckled and came further into the cargo hold, shuffling through all the sorted items with his hands in the pockets of that huge coat he always wore. Camarians aren't affected by alcohol. Well, that's just rude. Oh, how unfortunate. Neither are my father's people. Pretty sure that's why they're all so annoying. They'd be less annoying as drunks? Wait, are you saying I'm annoying? They'd be less annoying if they lighten up at least a little. And, well, I would want to break their heart again, so I'll leave that one unanswered. You are so cruel. No wonder your people tried to take over the galaxy. My father's people did that, thank you. I wasn't even born yet. Ah, yes, you keep saying my father's people, as if it makes it so they aren't your people, too. I don't have to view them as my people if I don't want to. It doesn't change who and what you are, Katu. Neither does my DNA. I might be inclined to argue with you on that one. And? Do I need a lecture from you on this topic? Krabs smirked at me over his shoulder. I don't know, do you? Given how hard you cling to my father's people, like a life preserver, maybe you do. Or, and hear me out on this one, you could accept that you don't know me. From what I can see, that makes two of us. Did you want something? Or did you just come down here to annoy me? If it's the latter, am I succeeding? Yes, you are, actually. Oh my, half my goal achieved, and I wasn't even trying. Only half? Well, I did come to check on this treasure trove Dad keeps badgering me about. And how's the ever-important cataloging go? Well enough. Might go faster if the supposed expert was helping, but he's been mysteriously missing the whole time. Hey, this expert's job is to figure out what weird-ass tech does, and you don't need said expertise, do you? Even I only figured out what some of this stuff is from trial and error. Didn't someone say you had your head pumped full of related knowledge? Didn't they even bother to tell you what their gadgets do? I don't remember everything that got pumped into my head, you know. It was a lot. What was even the point then? Who knows? Even if that wasn't true, this still seems more like your area than Daz's area. Aw, you want to spend time with me? I'm touched. Sorry to say, though, I'm in high demand and don't have time to rifle through this rummage sale. No, never mind. I can work it out on my own. I hate to say it, but they're too used to having me down in the lab, so pulling myself out for an extensive project like this is a little tough. Especially when, like I said, you don't need me here. Dad said you're just their errand boy down there. Don't dispute the importance of an errand boy. Sure, I also keep hearing that you have enough knowledge of astrophysical phenomena that you're at least as much a specialist in it as phrase. Been around a while. You picked things up over the years. So why are you just an errand boy? Why not? I enjoy it. Do I have to want to be more than that? I help with the tech we find because I can, and they need help to not blow themselves up sometimes. But I don't mind just running between labs to ferry petri dishes and data pads between them if I need to. Why are you content to do the work of a temporary ops officer? Aren't you basically just a glorified janitor? And yet, no doubt, you also have a lot more knowledge in other areas of specialty too. Yeah, well, it's hard to explain where I got that knowledge from. I don't have a resume or a degree proving it. And also, I just like what I do. So do I. Obviously, I've only picked this one. I watched him as he continued to poke around with vague disinterest, despite this being his specialty. Cav seemed to have a great deal of love for lecturing me, which was odd. I couldn't quite get a feel for him. He was teasing half the time and making pointed comments bordering on rudeness the other. And it's hard to work out if his jabs were serious or just to intentionally irritate me for the sheer amusement. It wasn't often I met someone I couldn't read. And so, despite that he could walk on my nerves a little, I was intrigued. And I wanted to know what his deal was. For now, I just let him be and went back to what I had been doing. Have you cataloged this thing yet? I glanced up in time to see Cav poke the stasis cube with his toe, not having realized he'd wandered in that direction. Not officially, I guess, but it isn't a priority since we all already know what that one does. Yeah. He leaned against it, heavy coat bunched up comically around his hips as he crossed his arms and half peered into the opening. Out of curiosity, do Valayans realize humanoids are not box-shaped? One wonders. He smirked as he leaned down further to get a better look inside. His face had gone surprisingly serious as he shifted to a crouching position, peering into the shadowed interior. It's not all that big, is it? Nope. Have to wonder how my father even got me in there. Just folded you up like laundry is my guess. So these both give you points with Cav, but this one gives you more. I laughed at the mental image, disturbing though it might be. Somehow that sounds about right. Pretty much all he's ever done is try to move me around to where he thought I should be. Sounds annoying. You're not wrong. I got to my feet and stretched before I made way to where he was. Hard to imagine the amount of time he spent in this thing. Hard to imagine. He trailed off without finishing that. His expression went dark. I wondered what he was thinking as he stared into it, finding it once again strange to not be getting anything from him, not even a whisper of emotion. I thought it might be nice if Noel would let me launch it into a star, just for a bit of closure. Cav looked up at me with a grin. I'll help you do it even if he says no. Better to ask forgiveness than permission. Is that your life motto? At least a few days out of the week it is. Not every day? I guess you have to follow the rules here and there if you want to keep your job. That's an interesting way to look at it. The flash of a grin vanished to be replaced with another frown. He leaned into the cube, careful not to touch anything as he reached out for something inside. What are you? Moments later, when he straightened, still staring down at something in his cybernetic hand, I caught a glimpse of a familiar shape. And I already knew what that was before he showed me. That's... Based on what I know, I reckon it's some kind of data storage device, yeah? A data prism. Yeah. Yes. He held it up to me, and when it landed in my palm, it luminesced. The faint echo of a familiar mind washed over me, making my stomach clench tight in surprise and dismay. Still felt just like him, even after 500 years. So, quick side note, interesting note about the word data. Originally, it was pronounced data. But when they started filming The Next Generation, one of the characters is named Data. But the first character to refer to him by name was Captain Picard, played by Patrick Stewart, who called him Data. And so there was some debate as to whether to continue calling him Data or switch to Data. And so Gene Roddenberry, who was still alive at the time, said that whoever pronounced the word first, that was how the word would be pronounced from then on. So that's how he came to be called Data rather than Data. And since I grew up watching Star Trek The Next Generation, at least a little bit, that's always how I pronounced the word data. I've never pronounced it data. So I was very confused when my teachers would say data. So now I think a lot of people actually say data instead of data, partially because of Star Trek The Next Generation. So, just an interesting side note. So if you're confused why I'm saying data instead of data, that's just the way my brain, that's just how I do it. But either pronunciation is correct. I'm just explaining why I say data instead of data. My throat constricted, making it even harder to speak as my hand unconsciously closed around the prism. My father must have left it for me. A message from him? I wished I was less aware of how carefully he was watching my face. I had assumed so. Guess even the galaxy's worst dad doesn't fold his kid and place her in a glorified laundry basket without at least leaving a note behind. Yeah, I guess not. It was hard to speak around the lump in my throat. I turned away from him to hide my expression because I didn't know if I looked like I might murder someone or like I wanted to cry. I dropped the lid from my soda. I do that a lot. Not just here. I win. There was a rustle of fabric behind me, the soft whine of a sharp inhale, then a hastily muttered word as Cab got to his feet. Fuck. His hands came to rest on my shoulders, and then one arm went around me in a sort of awkward hug I didn't expect. You okay, Ildir? For a moment I didn't answer because I didn't think I could. When I tried, my voice came out sounding like a croak from the galaxy's most pathetic frog. I don't know. Every time I think I am, I encounter something like this, and suddenly I'm not. Well, I imagine the fact you're not okay proves you really are more like one of us and not one of them, just like you always say. You're terrible at comforting people, I hope you realize. Because I can't tell if that's an insult or a compliment. I had reached up unconsciously and was gripping the arm around my shoulders tight, grateful for the warmth at my back, despite my words. He didn't try to pull away, and, if I wasn't mistaken, even gave me a slight squeeze. Yeah. He meant well, and even if I wasn't going to collapse into tears by the sudden semi-confrontation with my father, I was still glad he was there. If I was alone, I might have hurled the prism across the cargo hold and dropped something heavy on it to smash it to pieces. Most likely I would have regretted that, even if I was nowhere near a mental place where I wanted to hear what my father had to say. Cab and I stood like that until well after the urge to scream into an airlock had subsided. You don't have to listen to whatever is on that thing, I hope you realize. I know that. As long as you know. I had the feeling that was about as good at comforting as he was going to get. I let out a gentle laugh as I released his arm and stepped away from him. I think I'll keep it for now, just in case. But I still like to launch the cube into a star, just for personal satisfaction. I'll see what I can do. For now, and this is just a bit of wisdom from yours truly, you should get your head out of this rummage sale and take a break. Yeah, I think you're right. And hey, why don't we decompress the hold on our way out? I think that's going a little far. You sure? It would be pretty damn funny. I think that a fair number of the crew would disagree. They just don't know how to have fun. Perhaps, but that aside, I'm not sure seeding the surrounding area with alien technology just floating around in the ether is a good idea. Kato's always up for target practice. Yeah, I'm still going to go with no. None of this belongs to me anyway, except that crate, which in fact is full of my belongings. So I think I'll wrap up here, take that to my room, and maybe make good on my promise to go up to the bridge to admire the super terror we are here to study. I suppose your dad isn't the absolute worst if he at least took the time to make sure you had all your belongings. Just pretty fucking close. Yeah, he likes to throw you off by being less of a bastard than usual on occasion. What a charming guy. Anyway, let me know if you change your mind about spacing the entire hold. It'll be like that time Asher and I burned a bunch of his stuff his ex left behind. Not quite sure it's the same, but I hope you didn't start a bonfire on the ship. Should have seen the fit Rafe and Daz threw. It was amazing. Why am I not surprised? Because you've already worked out that I'm always up for some trouble to liven things up. But the answer is still no. I don't think my position here is quite solid enough for that level of troublemaking yet. Cal laughed and gave my shoulder another squeeze as he passed by. Don't push yourself too hard, Il dear. You aren't obligated to hurt yourself or anyone here, you know. Cataloging medical scanners and batteries isn't quite dramatic enough to be considered hurting myself, but I know what you mean. I can assure you that I'm fine. Or I would be fine anyway. I was getting there, even with the setbacks. Tab cast a careful look my way, studying my face for a moment before he shoved his hands into his pockets and shuffled out the door. Don't forget to go gawk at that planet with the others as if you've never seen a planet before. This stuff apparently isn't going anywhere, no matter how hard I try to help you toss it. So just take a break for a while. I will go gawk appropriately, I promise. And Cav? He turned and looked at me through his messy fringe. Thanks. No problem. I always love encouraging people who refuse to let me help. We've covered this. What you call help, others may call causing trouble. Yeah, more or less the same thing. I laughed again and he waved over his shoulder, leaving me there. And alone, I stood staring at the crystal in my hands for a moment before I tossed it in the crate full of my stuff. I let out a long sigh before I went to gather the data pad where I'd been cataloging things. It really was time to get my head out of this place. I hadn't expected this process to be as emotionally draining, even before I found that potential message. I'd be glad when we were finished with it all, because it felt like that would be when I could truly shut the door on all this and move on. For now, I just grabbed my crate of items and left the rest of it where it was for the time being so I could keep my promise and stop for the day. Okay, we're going to skip this bit here because we've already gone through this and it hasn't changed. The only change is going to happen... I'm not saving it because I already have it saved. So it's just going through the data prisms. Look at all them expressions changing. Okay, so this is this one just allows you to have a moment with whoever you have the most points with, and on stream it turned out to be Asher. This one you don't talk to anyone, and then this one it only shows up. This is what I noticed playing through other the other routes. This one only shows up sometimes, and that's if you have enough points with Cav for it to show up. And so this one will always be Cav. So I just experimented to see who I would get for this one, and it was Asher, so we're gonna pick this one. For a while, I worked on sorting the prisms while the others talked and laughed together. I hadn't realized Daz had moved away from his spot next to me until Cav spoke. I looked up with surprise when he sat beside me where Daz had been earlier, once again taken aback by his ability to just appear without me realizing it. I thought you were taking a break from this stuff for today. I said I would take a break from cataloging. This is different. You are literally cataloging those crystals right now, Idolwyn. I lifted an eyebrow, amused that the nickname had changed again. I know, I just thought I'd get this batch organized before tomorrow. Or, and I know this might be hard for a diligent little worker like yourself, you could just not do that. Very true, I could. You're the sort that gets stuck on a task until it's done, aren't you? Sometimes. He set his hand over mine, covering the screen in front of me with the other. Well, stop. You don't get bonus points for overtime. You've had your head in this stuff all day today. I suppose you're right. It just feels weird to stop when they're all sitting right here in front of me. Then maybe it's time to get out of here so they won't be in front of you anymore. Are you offering to go on a walk with me or just telling me to leave? Well, it's not like there's anything interesting to see on this tiny ship, but I guess we can go for a walk if you want. Maybe do an observation or something so we can look at the stars as if we aren't staring at them all the time anyway. I laughed and stood, pushing the data prisms aside. Doesn't sound terribly enthusiastic, but I'll take it. Gav stood as well, grinning at me. Together we left the rec room to walk together for a while. Made a mental note to return for the data prisms at some point before bed. I have to admit that hardly anything is as depressing as a walk in a place where you can't go outside and there's nothing to look at. There are a lot of hexagons, I admit. I wonder if it's a dig at Andromeda 6, because there's hexagons that feature heavily in the design for Andromeda 6. But you know, the ship is designed to not be depressing. Have you ever been on an old cargo freighter or a military ship? Those things are gray and white and monochrome. Everything has the exact same level of dull shine and nothing is soft or textural. If you want to go mad, spend a few weeks on one of those. When the hell have you been on a military vessel, Amun? Ah, that was a new nickname. So, obviously by the fact that this is the only one that's orange, that's what I picked before. Come to think of it, I realized I'd not heard him use my name once. What did all these random names even mean? Why wouldn't he stick to one? Questions abound. It was quite funny in a way. One day I was going to make him tell me what they meant, though I suspected he'd resist. Amu. I'd have to start a list if you kept this up. Like it? Oh, it's fine. Sounds cute. Uh-huh. He smirked, and I had the feeling he was expecting me to demand a translation on the spot. But I was determined not to give him the satisfaction. Something I had the distinct impression amused him even more. Anyway, I've been on a few retired ships that were repurposed. And my takeaway from those experiences is that at least the Ophelia is pretty enough to keep us all from losing our minds and eating each other. Not sure how prevalent cannibalism is on other ships, but I grant that this place isn't so bad, especially outside the labs. But when we aren't on dives or surveys or something, it's dull as hell. How long have you worked here, anyway? Interested in me, Amu? I'm curious about the crew dynamics. Wow, you picked the most boring answer, didn't you? I shrugged and gave him a half-hearted grin, always pleased when I could annoy him as revenge. Been here a bit over a full UCS year, heading towards a year and a half by now, I guess. I thought you'd been here longer. He shrugged in response. How did you get hired? And this time he laughed. That was a good time. Okay, that was not the reaction I expected, and I'm especially curious. Well, I was having stopovers at Yellow's Deep Space Terminal at the same time these guys were there. I ran into Asher and Rafe. I guess Asher used to live on Yellow's as a kid for a while and had been in trouble with some of the gangs there. He stowed away on the Ophelia just to get away from them. It was his first trip back since then. Guess someone recognized him. Oof, sounds dangerous. Well, when I saw it, it was close to blows since Rafe had intervened. Asher was trying to play it off and weasel out of it, but you probably already figured out what Rafe is like. So I'm guessing you got involved to help? Had a mini euthymia modifier on me at the time and may have used it to defuse the situation. An uncommon device that is capable of manipulating emotions and moods by altering brain signals in many organic species. You manipulated their moods to make them less confrontational? When you say it like that, it sounds like I did something shady. Modifying someone's brain chemistry without permission is shady. Also, euthymia modifiers are banned in UCW territories. It was for a good cause. And as it happens, one of the guys they were close to fighting was a Zeist. The Zeist are a full semi-biological life form. Their species integrated with technology long ago through overuse of cybernetic implants. In modern times, they are essentially full cyborgs with only a small amount of organic tissue. Oh no. Yeah, so I realized something was amiss and alerted the others. Basically, we had to run from them and station security. I ended up hitching a ride with the Ophelia since we had to vacate fast, and I was looking for a ride anyway. And they were, somewhat grateful. We reached the garden and Cab motioned me ahead of him. So you decided to just stick around after that? He pulled his jacket off and tied it around his waist in the warmer environment. Arms. I don't know what it is about arms, but I like admiring good arms. Not just muscular arms, there's something about them. Something like that. Somehow I wasn't surprised that he had that kind of story to explain how he arrived here, but I was somewhat surprised he stayed. He seemed similar to me, someone who drifted through and stayed only a while before leaving. When I glanced his way again, his face had gone incredibly soft. Just enjoying. Will you shut up? I keep getting text messages. The sardonic smirk had vanished to be replaced with a gentle smile, one I'd never seen before. They're interesting, these guys. I'm not even the first stray they've picked up, you know. Asher stowed away and was taken in by the previous captain. Uren and Sim were picked up from a damaged ship. Rafe was hired when no one else wanted him. Even Noel was someone who didn't have a lot of other options after getting into some trouble on his past ship. This place has a way of pulling together people who need to find a place to be. So I guess I felt like I fit, that's all. A way of pulling together people who need a place to be. That seemed accurate. In that sense, you probably belong here too. Or you could, anyway, if you want. It would be silly to say I hadn't expected him to have a softer side. Of course he did. Most people did, in one fashion or another. But even so, I hadn't expected him to show it to me. Not with the way he sometimes seemed to not even like me all that much. But still, that soft smile, the way his tone of voice shifted when he spoke of the crew. I was used to his joking and had even seen him be serious. A little. But this was different. This side of him felt like his walls had dropped just a little. And, well, it was endearing to see him open up even a little. And for it to be because he cared for these people so much more than he might let on. And for him to say I might be able to belong among them. A slight smile came to my face as well as we walked together. For a little while we were quiet. If the rest of the ship was boring, at least the garden was nice. Even Cab had to admit that. But we didn't stay there long, just circled it once and exited the far side, continuing on our wander. We passed the galley, the observation deck, and I wondered if we'd eventually swing around and reach the garden again. I glanced at Cab as we walked, and he was just shuffling along beside me with his jacket still tied around his waist, shaggy hair falling in his eyes as he stared at the floor. And I wondered if he was counting the shapes in the tessellation or just wondering if it had a name. I folded my hands behind my back, taking slightly longer steps, just to see if he'd try to match them. So, Cab looked at me with expectant amusement. What's your homeworld like? And yes, I might be a little interested in you, before you ask. Ha! What's to tell? It's just a planet. Most of it's desert, and most of what lives there wants to eat you. Come here means deception in a Valayan language, you know. Ha! Languages are the damnedest thing. Apparently Cav means heartbreaker in Durago. Someone on my last ship said my name meant dung in their language. I never lived it down. Somehow he didn't laugh as he washed my face. Do you miss them? I've been afraid to let myself miss them too much. Afraid that I won't be able to let them go. Maybe afraid you'll be able to let them go too easily. I hate how you do that sometimes. Do what? I looked away and didn't answer. He didn't even know me, so how did he manage to see through me like that? Well, maybe it goes back to what you were thinking earlier about how similar you two are. I spent so much time with them, but I still never quite aligned with them the way they all aligned with each other. I'm sad that they're gone, but sometimes I wonder if that sadness is anger that I missed out because someone else chose it for me. And then I wake up here and You know, Valayans have this belief about people you're meant to travel the long paths with. They call them nature, companions. Some say that Osi, loners like me, are driven to wander alone to find their nature over and over across space and time. I always thought it was nonsense. And then one day I was locked away and the ship and its crew found me and unlocked that prison and set me free. And now I wonder if I fit with them because of that or if it's just gratitude. That's why my father's people are so frustrating. They always tie you down with these sorts of things. I looked his way, realizing I'd just been rambling, and about something so personal, too. I didn't even know why I mentioned it. Cap had the oddest look on his face, hesitant and alarmed. His gaze slid from mine and he toyed with the ends of his hair, and I thought about how strange it must sound for me to suggest I had some deep connection with this crew. Well, maybe none of it's real anyway. It's just the sort of thing I think about when I'm on these long walks around the ship. It's real if you want it to be real. That's what matters. Maybe so. I hadn't realized, but as we walked, we hadn't restarted the circuit. In fact, Cap had been walking me to my room. I wasn't even aware we were going that way until we stopped in front of my door and he tapped it with 2 metal knuckles. You need to get some rest, ill dear. You've had nothing but long days since you got here. He reached towards me and for a moment the back of his metal forefinger rested on my cheek. Those dark circles might not be noticeable to the others, but I see them. I reckon it's easy enough to guess why you're having trouble sleeping. Yeah. Good night, Lane. I hope you have a good rest. It was so unexpected to hear him say my name for the first time that I almost didn't realize he'd done it until he was out of sight. Good night, Cav. I called it after him as loud as I could, but I wasn't sure he heard it. He didn't react as he vanished around the corner. For a moment I stood quiet in front of my door. What a strange and unexpected evening. What an unexpected conversation. I shut my eyes and waited a space before I finally turned and retreated into my room to try to go to bed as Cap suggested. He was maybe a little different than I thought. Maybe. Okay, that's it. We're gonna zip through the rest of this because there's not much left. There we go. Okay. So I wanted to go to the gallery real quick. So, this is from the conversation with Asher. I forget when exactly. And then this is talking with Asher in the cargo bay. He literally climbed into the cube. No one else did, but of course Asher did. So I thought that was really cute. And then here's Daz talking with the main character in the cargo bay. I love the little sparklies on Daz. And then here's Noel again. I love all these braids. So much detail. And then here's Rafe. And here's Rafe. I think this is it. This is the one in the cargo bay. Could be wrong. Look at all those freckles. And Uren. And here we can actually see the data prism. That's so cool. Okay. Okay, that's it. And hopefully this time there will actually be me talking. I will double check before I actually upload this, so it should have me talking. I apologize again for the lack of that, and when chapter 5 comes out, I will be going from I'll be using this save, which is the one that includes the tab save. I'm leaving the ones from the actual stream just for the heck of it. But yeah, that's it. Thank you all for watching. Please like, share, comment, subscribe, all that fun stuff. Stay cool if it's hot, stay warm if it's cold, drink water, eat food, take your meds if you need to. Just have a good day. Bye.